Hey, happy Friday. This week, a leaked document shows that your phone and other devices might actually be listening to you after all to show you ads. Telegram got into a whole lot of hot water, and we entered the tri-fold phone era. Welcome to the Friday Checkout. This video was sponsored by Ground News. Okay, for my first story of the week, we thought this was already debunked, but a new leaked document says that your devices might actually be listening to you after all. Specifically, 404 Media claims that they found a leaked pitch deck from a company called Cox Media Group, or CMG, titled, quote, "The Power of Voice and Our Devices' Microphones." And before we get to the details, CMG is a random media giant that owns dozens and dozens of TVs and radio stations, plus also a bunch of other media businesses, including an advertising agency. So if the deck is real, Cox Media Group describes using smart devices for listening to our conversations, which they then use to identify an audience who is ready to buy. The devices in question appear to be smartphones, smart TVs, and smart speakers, and they claim that they have 470 plus sources. They call this active listening, which advertisers can ask for in a targeted geography, and the deck proudly lists Google, Amazon, and Facebook as partners who ominously, quote, "keep us in the know." But don't worry, CMG's website claims that, quote, "we are good people, so I bet everything is fine." Now, funnily enough, this deck was uploaded to the internet by somebody called Joseph Cox, that is the reporter at 404 Media who uploaded it. And while I certainly hope this doesn't go to court, if it did, it would be kind of hilarious if we called this Cox v. Cox, like the battle of the Cox. Well, there goes my monetization on YouTube, I guess. But yeah, while the deck actually sounds pretty terrible, there are some caveats to be added here. Google removed CMG from its partner program after the news broke. Amazon said that it had never even worked with CMG, and Meta said that it was looking into whether CMG violated the company's terms and conditions. While we can't say for sure, a lot of people have looked into the big three before and found that they do not use your microphone for advertising, just like they claim that they don't. And if they did, they certainly would not sell this information to a random third-party ad agency, so this seems to be a little overblown. I think it's much more likely that CMG pays random app developers or game developers or maybe the operators of smart TV platforms to include their tracking, which have all been caught red-handed like a million times, but I'm not sure if that's a relief on its own. Also, I think in the past, a phone listening to you would be a really impractical way to spy on users for ads, because it would have required like a constant data stream of your audio being uploaded all the time, which would have been really easy to catch and super difficult to hide and everything. But given that all of our new devices now have AI chips built in and can do all the processing locally, I think it is becoming pretty likely that somebody's going to figure out that you can just do the listening on the device, extract the keywords and all the little things from that, and then just upload 3 keywords once an hour or something like that, and that'll be really easy to hide somewhere in the software. So I'm not saying that it's not coming at all. Anyway, moving on to my second story of the week, the CEO of Telegram is in hot water, and we finally got some clarifications as for why. So you've probably already heard earlier this week that France arrested and then charged the CEO of Telegram, Pavel Durov, with a range of allegations, which are mostly related to inappropriate and illegal materials being distributed via Telegram. Now, while most people still think of Telegram as some super secure encrypted chat app, that is really only for individual communication, so like one person talking with another person, and only if they actually go into the settings from each chat and turn encryption on. The vast majority of chats on Telegram, including all group chats, are completely unencrypted and completely readable to Telegram, and the French authorities seem to be implying that Telegram has done too little to moderate those. France says that Telegram doesn't seem to lift a finger to help them crack down on even the fairly blatant stuff happening on the platform, and there are multiple reports of pretty obviously criminal groups fully in the open too. France has laws like the SREN Act, for example, which can force platforms to introduce stricter moderation measures, and these are potentially being applied. Separately from this, the EU is now also investigating if Telegram intentionally underreported its user numbers as 41 million, just to stay under the Digital Services Act threshold of 45 million, which would categorize it as a very large online platform and would mean that it has to do much stricter moderation and be more transparent. Telegram only has about 30 employees, so I guess they have almost no capacity for moderation at all. There are also some complaints about encryption, but thankfully those are not very concrete yet, so I really hope that this stays a lawsuit about moderation and not one of encryption being broken again. Anyway, Durov was let out on bail for now, and we'll see how the courts actually end up ruling. Okay, and for my third story of the week, every phone company seems to be in a rush to show you that they have a triple foldable phone soon. Fold, foldier, the foldiest! If you recall, Samsung was showing off a concept model back in early 2023 with patents going back to 2020, so this idea is not new, but things seem to be getting real now. First, the Chinese phone company Tecno showed off its first concept tri-folding phone called the Phantom Ultimate 2, which features a 10-inch unfolded display, basically a tablet. Very few specs were provided, but this is 11 meters thick when unfolded, and at first we were left wondering just how real this was. But then Huawei actually confirmed that they will release a triple-fold phone in September, which makes sense given that Huawei's mobile head was already seen using a tri-fold phone on a plane in what appears to be a staged leak photographed by none other than a Huawei-made phone. Then, not to be left behind of course, Xiaomi seems to have leaked that it will have a tri-fold concept early next year, and just to round things off, Oppo also said me too and showed off its own concept. So it seems like Huawei will be the first to market with an actual device, and then the floodgates open and everybody will rush to market after. So all hail the triple fold phones. Okay, and now for a very short release monitor, we start with a weird new AI listening gadget called the Plot Note Pin. You're supposed to wear it on your body and it will record everything that you do and let you listen back into the past. And this way you'll not have to ask yourself whether your devices are listening to you because you just paid the company to give you a device that does. Cool. And next, in weird releases, LG also just announced the ThinQ On, a new Matter-certified smart home hub that comes with an AI voice assistant. This device will actually launch at IFA next week along with like 93 million other gadgets, so I'll actually have a second special episode just for IFA next week along with a regular Friday checkout episode, so pray for me that I'll make it and you will have plenty of content to enjoy. Okay, as for the brief, we'll start with Ryzen CPU owners who can now, no joke, download better gaming performance thanks to a Windows 11 update. This update includes AMD-specific branch prediction code, which on average will give a 10% performance improvement across multiple games on both older and newer Ryzen CPUs. That is pretty amazing. Moving on, the new iOS and macOS betas finally introduced the promised cleanup feature, which is basically Google's Magic Eraser, but for Apple. Nice, and I can't wait for Apple users to tell the world about this revolutionary new feature. And talking of updates, Samsung now for the first time ever offers a longevity guarantee for its TVs with 7 years of free updates for Tizen. We already got used to these on our smartphones, so I guess why not also on our TVs? And moving on, CarPlay and Nothing showed absolutely massive percentage growth in both smartphones and earbuds. Now, as I always say, quarterly figures can be massively distorted by changes in launch times, but this is still pretty impressive. And also this week, California passed a sweeping AI safety bill, which requires things like making it possible to quickly and fully shut down a model, just in case it goes rogue, and safety testing for the really advanced models. Elon Musk and Anthropic mostly backed it, while OpenAI and Meta were mostly against it, so I guess this is somewhat controversial, but oh well. And next, a really interesting story is that somebody compiled a list of leaked pin codes into these amazing graphs. As you'd expect, codes like 1, 2, 3, 4 are incredibly common, but in graphs like this where he plots the first two numbers and the last two numbers on the two axes of the graph, you can see that diagonal line showing that people double their two numbers, like say 69, 69, while this line shows that codes starting with 19 and then this one with 20 are really popular right until 2024. Really cool, and I've left a link to this down in the description if you want to explore. And going back to the Telegram news, this is a politically really complex story, right? The guy is Russian, he's both loved and hated in Russia, he has multiple citizenship, there's a whole debate about encryption and everything. So for stories like these, you really need a lot of context to understand it fully, and for that I recommend Ground News. Ground News is a website and an app that aggregates and contextualizes news across politics, business, and tech, just like our Telegram story here, which has around 190 sources covering it. Every story comes with a quick visual breakdown of the political bias, which in this case seems fairly well covered on both sides. You can see the factuality and the ownership of many of the sources reporting on the story, and this is all backed by ratings from 3 independent news monitoring organizations. So this way I can get a sense of which side is saying what, I can compare headlines, and I can weed out the stuff that is trustworthy from the stuff that is not. Context like this is very much needed in our politically polarized times. And Ground News even has a dedicated blind spot section that shows you news stories that were mostly covered by only one side of the political spectrum. So to get smarter about the news, go to ground.news/Friday checkout or click on the link in the video description, and don't forget to try a premium subscription for a full picture. You can get 40% off with my link, so be sure to use that, and I'll see you next Friday.